world.
You got me.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dweezil Zappa. This is Paul Franklin, and this is Guitar Power. But today, it's pedal steel guitar power. So this particular instrument, like you developed this with your father. So maybe you could fill us in on why this instrument is different than any other pedal steel.
Well, I was 8 years old in Detroit, you know, the steel guitar capital of the world.
Yeah.
There were no steel players. So we went into a music store, ordered a Fender 400. The moment we received it, we learned that it was obsolete to Nashville standards because you could only do one function. You could either raise a string or lower a string. So my uncle had a body shop, so my dad just said, well, I'll build one of those things. And he did, and he put these little, literally like a forklift, he put them under the key head. So as the string tries to pull up, it forces the key head and the guitar to dig deeper into the wood. And so it lengthened the sustain, and we didn't really know that was going to happen. It was just an idea that was tried and it worked. And he built my second one, which I played up until the time I moved to Nashville. He followed me about 6 months later and went to work for Showbud building their endorsed players. He also changed the pivot point in here because steels would typically only raise, I would pull about 3 tones. You know, so it'd either lower a string or raise it that far. So he made this like a whammy bar. So this will raise or lower a whole octave.
And that hadn't been done at all before.
Oh, it still hasn't. This is the only guitar out there that does that.
So a full octave.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So those are the two unique factors about this guitar. It enables me to do changes, you know, like that's what most people do.
Yeah.
So I can take it on up. So when people hear this, and that gives me a unison.
So what's happening right there? Describe for me, if somebody was to sit down on that stool right there and they're looking at this instrument and you had to say, all right, here's how this works.
Okay, this is, I use an E9 tuning, which is, to give any single person credit, Buddy Emmons probably developed the most of the tuning. You have a major 9 on top, a major 7 for the second string, then you have a 3rd, root, 5th, 3rd, and then you have another 9, and you have an E, a root, and then a 5th on the bottom, and you have in between those, you have a dominant 7. So they're all, basically all the triads, inversions, duplicating 1. And then the first pedal gives me a minor with those. And if you press both pedals down, you go into a forker. And then if you just do the second pedal, you've got
a little sus.
You got a sus. And if you hit 3rd pedal, like hit pedal 2 and pedal 3, you've got. So all these are the traditional stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what most people play on country records. And then the 4th pedal I have gives me an add 9. If I want it, with a bending sound.
This is something that you've developed,
Yeah,
this 4th pedal that goes to both necks.
This pedal, the steel guitar community calls it the Franklin pedal. It still makes me cringe when they say that, but I was the first one to come up with the concept. But it does some cool things. Then the next pedal, which I love, this is lowers the 5th. You know, so I can go. And then next to it, that also raises the top string. So like Miles had a thing. You know?
Yeah.
So you can do a small door opening into that world of jazz, and also the use of, we use a volume pedal a lot.
Yeah. to reduce the
yeah,
attack or
like listen to the difference. Okay, I didn't use my volume pedal, but listen to the difference. So it gives it a cry. But in the rock world, if you were doing like a when I was out with on the road, I was doing stuff like that. And what I love about the steel guitar is like everybody's used to these sounds. They're that really almost a beginner phase sound, and I'm not putting that down. It's just what.
That's like the early vocabulary.
It was the earliest. It was the the alphabet maybe. But when you do these sounds, if I play a melody on that unison, then it becomes something totally different. And especially if I, do That's it. And then I've got a whole different animal. There's when you buy a steel, if you've got a mental understanding of music, you can say, hey, listen, I don't care about playing country. I don't care about doing this. I want to play blues. To me, it's all open out there. If
so
somebody
if you want
to
start like an Albanian dubstep pedal steel
band,
you're good to go.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's so crazy when you listen to music and go, there's only 12 notes. And you have an infinite number of possibilities.
And I think that's each individual player has to express their own heart or their own passion or whatever into the instrument. And being a studio player is a composer. You can't go far if you copy everybody else's thing, because you got to create parts for the record, for the song.
That brings up a good point. So when you're playing with different artists and on music that you've never heard before, but how do you decide how you can connect with the song and put the emotional content in there?
Yeah, you never hear the song before you walk in. It's rare. You got to read the room. So if you know somebody's more into traditional, or if they don't like that, then for me that means I have to play completely different. If I know somebody likes the country stuff, I might can play those kind of voicings. If they don't like that, like when I did Shania Twain, see, that was not the mission on that record. So I was doing all those kind of lines. And then in the background, if you listen closely to those records, I was also doing stuff like this. So I was actually playing the role of a guitar, and then Mutt would mix that down. But the interesting thing for me in music, it's all just so interrelated. We practice for those moments. At home years before,
if you're smart.
Yeah, but I mean, we all have our goals. So I started at a young age, and how I learned was I also listened to the radio, and they might play a record that I wanted to learn maybe 3 times a day, and I might only get 4 notes from that. And then if I was lucky enough to get the record and setting the needle back, I would have to do that. So I would practice things like. Then I just think about it. Somewhere I'll use that. And saving time to learn something can be good, but sometimes it doesn't go into your soul because you didn't have to struggle to learn it. I always ask everybody that in this thing, you remember the first time you learned something completely on your own and you got it? That's the best feeling in the world.
Where you are on that, do you remember that moment of like one thing that you, as a kid, because you started when you were 8, right?
Yeah, I started.
So do you remember one of the first aha moments like that?
Oh, yeah.
Can you play it for us?
I'll show you. It's an ending that was on a Buddy Emmons record, and I heard it, and it was fast. I probably can't play it at the right speed. I heard that, and I thought, what in the world is he playing? And I sat there with that record and put it back, and I'd get...
Yeah.
That was like Mount Everest. I could see it and, thought, no way. But I kept on trying. And when I got it, without anybody showing me, you know, then I thought, okay, I can do this.
That is a great thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you can learn so much from the failure,
Yeah.
way more than you can
Oh.
from the success.
Yeah,
You know?
I totally agree with that. That's the whole point. There's a story that I love that I recently heard Herbie Hancock tell, and he said that he was with Miles and he played he said like a really bad chord.
Yeah.
And another thing that can happen when players learn how to really listen to everybody, he said he hit this chord and it was like, oh, and then he said, and then Miles hit a note that made that chord right.
Yeah.
And he goes, light bulb went on. It's like, there really is nothing wrong. You know, there's some way to make everything work.
Yeah.
I have an exercise, and I'll play it. Some of you might recognize it, but that's called Dire Straits' Calling Elvis.
Yep.
That has been just getting my coordination between my bar
Yeah.
and my picking. You know, it's just something it kind of gets things over, and I just do that. And I'm in an ISO booth at London Air, and I'm playing this, and all of a sudden Carl starts playing. He starts playing to me.
Yeah.
And so, and the genius of Mark Knopfler is, it was me doing my exercise. It was never meant to be musical.
Yeah.
It was just a warm-up thing. And once he did that, and then Mark, we heard over the phones, calling Elvis, is anybody home? And he started singing the song, and it transitioned like that. The rest of the band joined in, and then that song was arranged just like that. And that's why I say you got to practice at home. Be ready for those, whatever's coming your way.
Yeah.
I hope you can swim.
Well, that would be a bit terrifying, I would imagine. Yeah. But then I guess you get used to it after having done it a few dozen times, or in your case, a few thousand times.
Well, for me, I mean, I think a little bit of nervousness is always the best thing because it keeps you on edge. I'm forever a student. You know, that's the way I view myself. It's like I can't learn enough of this stuff.
Appreciate that because I feel the same way. You know,
Knopfler has a quote about this and everything, and he always said the more he learns about music, it dwarfs him. It's like I actually feel like I'm shrinking as a musician because it's like I don't have enough time to learn it all.
So part of the sound that you're creating is coming from this little effects box, which seems to be a multi-effects unit. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I worked with this friend of mine, Sage Bonato, and he'll take your favorite thing. So this is kind of like a Wampler reverb, which I thought was a really good reverb for steel.
Yeah.
And what's great about it is even though there's a lot of the presence of the note is still up front. Same thing with this delay, but it allows me to still have the presence of the note. So anyway, I can go to extremes. I can also radicalize it, like.
Is it analog to the point where you have a time knob, and when you change the time, it will work like an old Echoplex?
I don't like it when it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And now when you get into techno pop and all that, where it has to be, it does. But I listened to all those old records with the Echoplex and all that. They were never perfect, and that was part of the beauty. It was the fact of, you know, having a delay, maybe a little bit behind, or sometimes a little ahead. It made it. It did something to the track.
You just tune it musically.
Yeah, tune it to whatever my taste is that day. And then this is like a little overdrive. It's kind of like but it's like a Zen drive. I've got a little delay. I'll back the delay off.
Yeah.
Now, when I play rock or any of those things, I also use, like you do, I grab guitar amps and break them up naturally.
That sounds great. Well, you know, we've done quite an extensive tour of all of this stuff, and I've learned so much from you, Paul Franklin.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've learned tons.
Thank you so much.